The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute professional insurance, legal, or financial advice. Insurance policies vary significantly by state, provider, and individual coverage levels. Always consult with a licensed insurance agent, a qualified legal professional, or a certified public adjuster regarding your specific situation before making decisions about a claim. The creator of this video is not responsible for any actions taken based on this content. Conduct your own due diligence and verify all local regulations and policy terms. The sky turns an eerie shade of bruised purple, the wind drops to a dead silence, and then the sound begins. It starts like a handful of gravel hitting your roof, but within seconds, it transforms into a localized war zone. In 2023 alone, the United States saw over 6,900 major hailstorms, according to data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. That is thousands of instances where ice stones, some the size of softballs, fell from 30,000 feet at terminal velocity, impacting vehicles with enough force to shatter safety glass and cave in reinforced steel. But here is the shocking reality that most car owners do not realize until it is too late. The damage to your car is not the biggest threat you face. The real disaster happens in the 48 hours after the clouds clear. Most people will unknowingly commit one of three critical errors that could result in their insurance claim being denied, their premium skyrocketing unnecessarily, or their vehicle being labeled with a salvage title despite having only cosmetic dings. Historical trends suggest that the average hail claim in the US now exceeds $5,000, yet thousands of drivers walk away with thousands less than they are entitled to because they followed the wrong sequence of events. If you think calling your insurance agent is the first thing you should do, you are already at risk of losing leverage. Today, we are launching a comprehensive deep dive masterclass designed to navigate the complex, often predatory world of automotive hail damage recovery. This is not just a list of tips. This is a strategic blueprint for the American driver. We are going to deconstruct the entire ecosystem of post-storm recovery, from the physics of paintless dent repair to the legal nuances of bad faith insurance practices. By the time we finish this 10-part series, you will understand exactly how to document your vehicle to a forensic standard, how to decode the jargon in your specific policy, and how to spot a storm chaser scam artist from a mile away. We are solving the problem of information asymmetry. The insurance companies have billion-dollar algorithms and teams of adjusters trained to minimize payouts. You have this guide to level the playing field. Whether you are in the hail alley of Texas, Nebraska, and Kansas, or you just got caught in a freak storm in the Northeast, the steps we are about to cover are the difference between a total financial loss and a perfectly restored vehicle. Let us begin with the immediate aftermath. When the ice stops falling, the clock starts ticking. In the United States, insurance claims are governed by statutes of limitations and policy-specific, prompt notice requirements. However, prompt is a subjective term that adjusters use to their advantage. If you wait too long, they can argue that secondary damage, such as rust in the dented areas or water intrusion from a compromised seal, is a result of your negligence rather than the storm itself. Consider the case study of a vehicle owner in Colorado who waited 3 weeks to file a claim after a June storm. During those 3 weeks, several rainstorms occurred. The adjuster argued that the internal electronics failure was due to the owner's failure to cover a cracked windshield, leading to a partial denial of a claim that should have been covered in full. This is why we must address the atmosphere of the post-storm economy. When a major hail event hits a metropolitan area like Dallas or Denver, it creates an instantaneous surge in demand for repair services that exceeds the local capacity by 500% or more. This creates a vacuum filled by catastrophe teams and mobile repair units that travel across state lines. While many of these are legitimate, the lack of a permanent physical presence in your community can be a massive red flag. We will explore how to vet these entities using historical business records and local licensing requirements. Furthermore, we need to talk about the total loss threshold. This is a mathematical formula that varies by state. In some states, if the cost of repair reaches 75% of the vehicle's actual cash value, the insurance company is legally mandated to declare it a total loss. In others, they use a total loss formula, which is the cost of repair plus the salvage value. If that sum exceeds the actual cash value, the car is gone. For many Americans, a hail-damaged car is still perfectly drivable and mechanically sound, but a single storm can wipe out their equity and leave them owing money on a loan for a car they no longer own. We are going to show you the specific data points you need to collect to challenge an undervalued appraisal. We will look at how to use comparable sales reports, not just from a quick internet search, but from dealer-only auction data, to prove your car's worth before the dents happened. The financial stakes here are higher than most people think. A vehicle with unrepaired hail damage can see a 20% to 40% drop in resale value. Even if you don't mind the golf ball look, you are effectively sitting on a depreciating asset that will be nearly impossible to trade in or sell privately later. And if you have a secondary accident, the insurance company will deduct the pre-existing hail damage from your settlement, often at a much higher rate than it would have cost to fix it originally. In this masterclass, we are going to walk through the chain of evidence. You need to understand that your smartphone is your most powerful tool in the first 60 minutes. But taking a few blurry photos in your garage is not enough. You need to understand how lighting angles and reference objects change the way an adjuster perceives the depth of a dent. We will provide a step-by-step walkthrough on how to create a damage map that prevents an insurance company from missing half the impacts on your roof and hood. We are also going to dive deep into the preferred provider trap. Most U.S. insurance carriers have a list of direct repair programs or DRPs. They will tell you that using these shops guarantees the work or makes the process seamless. While that can be true, there is an inherent conflict of interest. These shops often have pre-negotiated labor rates and parts discounts with the insurer. Their loyalty may lie with the company providing them a steady stream of thousands of cars, rather than with you, the individual owner. You have the legal right in almost every state to choose your own repair facility. We will discuss the potential outcomes of choosing an independent specialist versus a corporate-aligned shop, and how to ensure your manufacturer's warranty remains intact throughout the process. This is part 1 of a 10-part deep dive. We are setting the foundation here because the biggest mistake is rushing. The pressure from the insurance company to close the file is a tactic. The pressure from the dent guy waving a flyer at your window is a tactic. Your goal is not speed. Your goal is restoration of value. We are going to provide the historical context of how the insurance industry has changed its handling of comprehensive claims over the last decade, specifically regarding catastrophic event designations. Stay with us because in the next segment, we are going to look at the first 5 actions you must take within the first 48 hours to protect your claim. We are going to talk about comprehensive coverage versus collision, and why your deductible might not be what you think it is in a declared disaster zone. This is the education you were never given when you signed your insurance policy, but it is the education that will save you thousands of dollars. Let's get into the details of the post-storm inspection. The moment the last piece of ice hits the pavement, a silent timer starts. In the insurance industry, this is known as the mitigation window. Most Americans believe that as long as they pay their premiums, their insurance company is a safety net that will catch them regardless of how they handle the aftermath. However, historical trends in 2026 show that claims are increasingly scrutinized based on the owner's immediate actions to prevent further loss. Imagine a driver in North Texas named Michael. It's a Tuesday afternoon in April, and a localized supercell has just peppered his 2024 Ford F-150 with 2-inch hail. Michael looks at the dent's size and decides to wait until the weekend to deal with it because he has a busy work week. That 48-hour delay is the first domino in a potential financial collapse. Step 1 of your post-storm inspection is the preservation of the scene. You must treat your driveway or the parking lot where the damage occurred like a forensic site. Before you even touch the car, you need to document the environment. In 2026, insurance adjusters often use high-resolution satellite imagery and localized weather data to verify the severity of a storm. If your neighbor across the street has no damage but your car is totaled, the adjuster will look for discrepancies. You need to photograph the hailstones themselves. Do not just take a picture of a single ice cube in your hand. Place it next to a standard reference object like a quarter or a tape measure. This provides an irrefutable scale. If the stones are 3 inches wide, that indicates a specific terminal velocity and impact force that justifies deep metal stretching. Once you have documented the ice, you move to the car, but here is the critical detail. Do not dry the car off yet if it is still raining, but do not inspect it in direct, harsh sunlight either. Direct sun creates glare that masks shallow high-velocity impacts. The best time for a preliminary inspection is under overcast skies or in a garage using a portable LED light bar, held at a 45-degree angle to the body panels. This is the same technique professional paintless dent repair technicians use. When you run a light across a flat panel, any deviation in the metal will cause the reflection of the light bar to bend or distort. This is how you find the hundreds of tiny microdents that an adjuster might skim over during a 5-minute visual appraisal. Step 2 involves the immediate protection of your vehicle's interior. This is where many claims go sideways. If a hailstone has cracked your windshield or shattered a sunroof, the potential outcomes for your interior are dire. In the United States, most insurance policies contain a clause that requires the insured to take reasonable steps to prevent further damage. If Michael leaves his truck outside with a cracked sunroof and a thunderstorm rolls in the next night, soaking his leather seats and frying the electronic control modules in the dashboard, the insurance company may legally deny the water damage portion of the claim. They will argue that while the hail caused the initial breach, the owner's failure to cover the vehicle caused the subsequent total loss of the electronics. You must use crash wrap or heavy-duty plastic and duct tape to seal any compromised glass immediately. Save the receipts for the plastic and the tape. These are often reimbursable as part of your loss mitigation. Step 3 is the digital evidence log. You are not just taking photos, you are creating a digital breadcrumb trail. In 2026, metadata is king. Every photo you take on your smartphone contains GPS coordinates, timestamps, and device information. This metadata proves that the damage occurred exactly where and when you said it did. Start at the front left corner of the car and take a wide-angle shot of the entire side. Then move in for close-ups of every single panel: hood, roof, trunk, left fenders, right fenders, and all doors. Do not ignore the trim pieces. Modern vehicles use expensive aluminum or chrome-plated plastic moldings around windows and roof racks. A single dent in a roof rail can cost $700 to replace because it often requires dropping the interior headliner to access the bolts. If you do not document these small trim pieces now, they will be left off the initial estimate, and you will find yourself fighting for a supplement later. Case studies from recent storms in the Midwest show that owners who provide an organized PDF of 60 or more photos receive their initial estimates 20% faster than those who wait for an adjuster to do the work. Why? Because you are making the adjuster's job easier. Adjusters are often overwhelmed after a major hail event, sometimes handling 30 files a day. If you present them with clear, undeniable evidence of damage to the A-pillars and the roof rails, areas often overlooked, they are more likely to include those items in the first draft of the estimate, rather than making you wait weeks for a secondary inspection. Let's talk about the specific anatomy of hail damage. You need to look for what professionals call the star break. This happens when a hailstone hits a glass surface but doesn't fully shatter it. Instead, it creates a series of microscopic fractures radiating from a central point. In the summer heat of 2026, these fractures will expand and contract. What looks like a tiny chip on Monday can become a foot-long crack by Friday due to thermal shock. If you see these star breaks, you need to document them immediately because if the glass shatters later while you are driving, it becomes a safety hazard and a much more complicated claim. Furthermore, you must inspect your paint. While paintless dent repair is the preferred method for fixing hail because it preserves the factory finish, it is only viable if the paint is not cracked. Use a magnifying glass or the zoom function on your 2026 flagship smartphone to look at the center of the deepest dents. If you see any spider webbing or flaking of the clear coat, the metal has been stretched beyond its elastic limit. This means the panel will require traditional bodywork, sanding, filling, and repainting, which is significantly more expensive and impacts the vehicle's resale value differently than PDR. Knowing this before you talk to the insurance company gives you the upper hand. As you finish your inspection, you must check the mechanical components that people often forget. Check your headlights and taillights. Modern LED assemblies on a vehicle can cost between $1,000 and $3,000 per side. A small crack from a hailstone can allow moisture to enter the housing, which will eventually burn out the expensive circuitry. Look at the radiator through the front grille. Large hail can bend the delicate cooling fins, leading to overheating issues weeks down the line that you might not initially associate with the storm. Now that you have your evidence, your interior is protected, and you have identified the severity of the metal and glass damage, you are ready to move to the most dangerous part of the process: the communication phase. This is where the majority of American drivers lose their leverage. There is a specific vocabulary you must use and a specific set of questions you must ask your agent to ensure you aren't funneled into a lowball settlement. But before you even pick up the phone, there is one document you must find in your glove box or online portal that determines exactly how much of this bill you are going to pay, and whether you are about to get hit with a surprise deductible that could cost you thousands out of pocket. In the next part, we are going to dive into the hidden language of your 2026 insurance policy, and the one clause that could potentially make your claim vanish before it even starts. Do you know the difference between a standard deductible and a percentage-based catastrophe deductible? Because if you don't, you might be responsible for the first $5,000 of the repair. We are breaking down the policy secrets next. Imagine if you are Sarah, a small business owner in Omaha, Nebraska, in the early summer of 2026. You have just finished the meticulous inspection we discussed in the previous segment. You have 42 high-resolution photos of your 2023 Tesla Model Y, and you are ready to call your insurance company. But before you dial that number, you sit in the driver's seat and pull out your policy declarations page. Most people treat this document like a receipt they will never need, but in the world of 2026 insurance, this is your legal contract, and it contains the specific math that will determine if you are getting a check for $6,000 or a bill for $4,000. The first thing you must look for is the word comprehensive. In the United States, there is a pervasive misconception that full coverage is a standard legal term. It is not. Full coverage is a marketing term. For hail damage, you are looking specifically for comprehensive coverage, sometimes referred to as other than collision. If your policy only lists liability and collision, you are essentially self-insured for weather events. Historical trends in the U.S. insurance market show that as vehicle prices have surged, more drivers have opted for higher deductibles or dropped comprehensive coverage to save on monthly premiums. If you find yourself in this situation, the potential outcomes for a hail claim are zero. However, assuming you have comprehensive coverage, the next line item is the most critical, your deductible. In 2026, we are seeing a significant shift in how deductibles are structured, especially in high-risk zones like the Great Plains and North Texas. Traditionally, you would see a flat dollar amount such as $500 or $1,000, but a new trend has emerged: the percentage-based catastrophe deductible. Imagine Sarah's surprise when she looks at her policy and sees a 2% wind and hail deductible instead of a flat fee. On a $60,000 Tesla, a 2% deductible means Sarah is responsible for the first $1,200 of the repair. If her damage is only $1,500, her insurance company is only going to cut her a check for $300. This is why you must calculate your specific out-of-pocket exposure before you ever officially open a claim file. Why does this matter? Because in 2026, every claim you file, even a no-fault comprehensive claim, is recorded in the Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange, or CLUE report. While many states, including Texas and Colorado, have statutes that prevent insurance companies from surcharging your individual premium for an act of God like a hailstorm, they cannot stop the company from re-rating your entire zip code. Case studies from the 2025 storm season show that drivers who filed multiple small claims, under $2,000, often found themselves facing non-renewal notices at the end of their policy term. The insurance company isn't punishing you for the hail. They are labeling you as a high-frequency claimant. This is the math of the 2026 insurance economy. If your repair cost is within $500 of your deductible, the potential outcome of filing a claim may be a long-term financial loss through increased base rates. Now, let us look at the concept of actual cash value, or ACV. This is where the deep dive into your vehicle's value becomes a masterclass in financial defense. Insurance companies in the U.S. do not pay to fix your car. They pay to restore the value of the asset up to its limit. If Sarah's car was worth $40,000 before the storm, and the hail damage estimate comes back at $31,000, she is entering the total loss zone. Most states use a total loss threshold, which is often around 75% to 80% of the ACV. In 2026, with the high cost of replacement parts and specialized labor for sensors and calibration, it is easier than ever to total a car with hail. Wait, you might think, my car only has dents, why would they total it? Because of the labor-intensive nature of modern repairs. If every panel on the car requires paintless dent repair, and several panels require traditional bodywork due to cracked paint, the labor hours alone can reach into the hundreds. At a 2026 average labor rate of $125 per hour in many U.S. metros, you are looking at $12,000 in labor before a single part is even ordered. Add in the cost of a new windshield with heads-up display calibration, which can easily top $2,500, and a shattered panoramic sunroof, and you are suddenly staring at a $20,000 repair bill on a vehicle that might only be worth $28,000. This leads us to the hidden trap of the unpaid loan. Historical data indicates that a significant percentage of American drivers are underwater on their car loans in 2026, meaning they owe more than the car is worth. If Sarah's car is totaled for $30,000, but she owes $35,000 on her loan, the insurance company sends that $30,000 check directly to the bank. Sarah is left with no car and a $5,000 bill for a pile of scrap metal. This is why you must check your policy for gap insurance. If you do not have a gap endorsement, a single 10-minute hailstorm can become a multi-year financial burden. Furthermore, we must discuss the 2026 reality of supplement claims. When you first talk to your insurance company, they will likely ask you to use a photo estimating app. They will tell you it is for your convenience. In reality, photo-based estimates are historically undervalued by 30 to 50%. Why? Because a camera cannot capture the structural tension in the metal or the broken clips behind a door panel. If you accept the initial check based on a photo estimate and sign a release, you may be forfeiting your right to more money later. You must ensure that any payment you receive is marked as a partial payment or an initial estimate, not a full and final settlement. Let us go deeper into the specific language of the 2026 policy. Look for a clause regarding aftermarket parts or like-kind and quality. In an effort to reduce costs, many insurers will specify that they only pay for non-OEM, original equipment manufacturer parts. For a hail claim, this usually applies to the hood, trunk lid, or glass. However, using a non-OEM windshield in a 2026 vehicle can interfere with the advanced driver assistance systems, like lane keep assist and emergency braking. If your policy allows for aftermarket parts, you need to know this now, because your repair shop will likely fight the insurance company for OEM parts to ensure the safety systems work correctly. This friction between the shop and the insurer is where your claim can get stuck for months. By now, you should have a clear picture of your financial standing. You know your deductible, whether it's a flat $500 or a 2% CAT deductible. You have an idea of your vehicle's actual cash value from current 2026 market data. You have checked for gap coverage. You are no longer a victim of the storm. You are a manager of a complex financial recovery. But there is one final piece of the puzzle you need before you make that call. You need to understand the psychology of the person who is about to answer the phone. The insurance industry uses specific tiers of adjusters, and the person you talk to first is rarely the person who has the authority to actually pay your claim in full. There is a specific trap, an open loop in the system, called the claim number trigger. Once you get that number, your options start to narrow rapidly. There is a way to speak to your agent that protects your interests, and there is a way that inadvertently hands them the keys to deny your claim later. In the next part, we are going to script your first conversation with the insurance company. We will give you the 3 questions that will make an adjuster realize they are dealing with a pro, and the one phrase you should never use if you want your car fixed correctly. Do you know what to say when they ask, "Is the car safe to drive?" Because your answer could end your claim right there. We are moving into the negotiation phase next. When the claims adjuster or the intake representative asks if the car is safe to drive, most Americans, like a driver named David in Kansas City, would instinctively say yes because the engine starts and the wheels turn. In David's mind, he is being helpful and showing he is not a high-maintenance claimant. However, in the 2026 insurance landscape, this answer is a strategic pivot point. If David says the car is safe to drive, the insurance company may deprioritize his inspection. They will likely push him toward a photo-based estimating app or a drive-in claims center weeks away. But safe to drive is a legal and technical standard, not just a feeling. If there is a crack in the windshield that interferes with the forward-facing camera used for automatic emergency braking, the car is technically not safe to operate per manufacturer specifications. If a taillight lens is cracked, allowing white light to emit to the rear, it may violate state vehicle codes. The correct response is a detailed neutral statement. The vehicle is currently parked and I have concerns about the integrity of the safety sensors and glass surfaces due to high-velocity impacts. This keeps the claim in the high-priority queue and signals that you understand the technical complexity of a 2026 vehicle. The first conversation with your insurance carrier is the beginning of your official record. This is where the case study of Maria in Oklahoma City becomes vital. Maria had a 2025 SUV hit by tennis ball-sized hail. When she called, the representative asked, "When did you first notice the damage?" Maria replied, "I think it happened during that storm on Tuesday, but I didn't really look at it until Friday." To an adjuster, that one word "think" is an opening. It creates a gap in the timeline. If there were 2 storms, one on Tuesday and one on Thursday, the insurance company could argue that the damage is from 2 separate occurrences, which would technically require 2 separate deductibles. Historical trends show that carriers are increasingly looking for ways to apply multiple deductibles to a single vehicle if the owner cannot pinpoint the exact catastrophic event. You must be precise. Based on local meteorological reports and my immediate inspection, The damage occurred on June 12 at approximately 4:15 p.m. during the documented hailstorm in zip code 73102. Precision removes the adjuster's ability to categorize your loss as a series of smaller, non-catastrophic events. Once the claim is opened, you will be assigned a claim number. This number is your passport for the next several months. But immediately after getting the number, the representative will likely offer you their preferred provider network. This is the moment of the first negotiating trap. The representative might say, if you go to our partner shop, we can handle the payment directly and the work is backed by our network. What they might not mention is that these shops often have prearranged agreements to use alternative parts. In the United States, these are often referred to as quality recycled parts or aftermarket parts. While these parts may look the same, they may not have the same crash test ratings or metallurgical properties as the original equipment manufacturer parts your car was built with. Potential outcomes of using a preferred shop include a faster turnaround, but a potentially lower quality of structural repair. You must ask, will my repair be performed using only OEM parts? And does your network shop allow for the full time required for proper ADAS recalibration? Most preferred shops are under pressure to maintain a low average severity of repair, which is a metric that measures how much the insurance company pays per car. If a shop spends too much time or money on your car, they risk being kicked out of the network. This leads into the step-by-step of the virtual estimate. In 2026, many carriers will insist on a photo-only estimate through an app. This is a tool designed for the insurance company's efficiency, not your accuracy. Case studies have shown that photo estimates for hail damage are historically 50 to 70% lower than the final repair cost. Why? Because a 2D image cannot capture the depth of a dent or the hidden damage beneath the surface. If you are forced to use the app, do not treat it as the final word. Treat it as a tool to get a preliminary payment. When you receive the initial check, let's say for $2,400, do not assume that is all you get. This is the start of the supplement process. A supplement is an additional request for funds made by the repair shop once they have the car under specialized lights and have performed a teardown. You must tell the adjuster during the first call, I will accept the initial estimate as a starting point, but I reserve the right to file supplements for any hidden damage found during the physical teardown at my chosen repair facility. There is also the issue of loss of use and rental coverage. Many Americans don't realize that in 2026, the supply chain for automotive parts still experiences significant bottlenecks, especially for specialized sensors and high-end glass. If your car is in the shop for 45 days because a specific windshield is on backorder, but your policy only covers 30 days of rental car usage, you are responsible for the remaining 15 days. This can cost you over $1,000 out of pocket. During your first call, ask specifically, what is the maximum duration and dollar amount for my rental coverage? And do you offer an extension if parts delays are documented by the repair facility? If they say no, you need to manage your repair timeline with extreme care. Let's talk about the specific character of the independent adjuster versus the staff adjuster. If the storm was massive, the company will likely send an independent adjuster, a third-party contractor. These individuals are often paid per claim. Their goal is volume. They want to get in, count the dents, and get out. They are not necessarily looking for the subtle damage to your door seals or the microcracking in your paint. You must be present during the inspection. If you have done the work we discussed in Part 2 and Part 3, you have your own damage map. When the adjuster says, I count 30 dents on the hood, you can calmly point to your map and say, according to my high-contrast light inspection, there are actually 52 impacts, 4 of which have compromised the clear coat. This demonstrates that you are an informed claimant, which historically leads to a more thorough and fair initial appraisal. Another layer of the 2026 insurance landscape is the emergence of AI-driven appraisal software. Some adjusters now use scanners that claim to count dents automatically. While this technology is improving, it often struggles with specific paint colors, like tri-coat pearls or matte finishes, which are popular on modern vehicles. If an AI scanner is used on your car, ask for the manual override report. You have the right to see the raw data and compare it to a visual inspection. Never sign a document that states you agree with the adjuster's total until you have had your own independent repair shop review the estimate. We must also address the psychological pressure. The insurance company may use language like, this is the standard settlement for this type of vehicle in your region. This is a tactic to make you feel like your claim is a commodity. Every car is different. A 2024 truck with 30,000 miles that has been garage kept is not the same as a 2024 truck with 80,000 miles that has lived outdoors. Your car's specific condition prior to the storm is a factor in its actual cash value. If they try to lowball the value by comparing it to high-mileage examples, you must be ready to provide your service records and a clean pre-storm photo log to prove the vehicle's premium condition. By the end of this first conversation and inspection, you should have 3 things: a claim number, a copy of the initial estimate, even if it is incomplete, and a clear understanding of your rental car limits. But having the money or the estimate is only half the battle. Now you face the most chaotic part of the 2026 hail economy: the storm chaser. Within hours of a major storm, crews will be knocking on your door, putting flyers on your windshield, and setting up tents in mall parking lots. Some are world-class technicians. Others are fly-by-night operations that will take your insurance check and disappear, leaving you with a car that has been structurally compromised or improperly repaired. Do you know the 3 questions that will immediately expose a fraudulent repair operation? And more importantly, do you know how to tell if a shop is actually performing paintless dent repair, or if they are just filling the holes with Bondo and painting over them? In the next part, we are going to dive into the dark side of the repair industry and show you how to vet a shop like a professional investigator. The difference between a lifetime warranty and a vanished contractor starts with the one document you must ask for before they touch your car. We are uncovering the repair scams next. The moment a hailstorm ends in the United States, a specific segment of the economy springs into action. These are the storm chasers. Imagine a homeowner in a suburb of Dallas, Texas, named James. Within 24 hours of a major 2026 hail event, James finds 3 different flyers on his doorstep and 2 crews literally knocking on his door while he is still assessing the damage to his roof. These companies often have professional-looking wraps on their trucks, high-end websites, and a sales pitch that sounds incredibly enticing. They offer to pay your deductible, handle all the insurance paperwork, and get your car back to you in record time. While some of these are legitimate national catastrophe teams that support local shops during surges, many are fly-by-night operations that rely on the fact that you are stressed and seeking the path of least resistance. In the 2026 automotive repair landscape, the first thing you must understand is the deductible assistance scam. You will hear phrases like, "We can waive your $500 deductible." In the United States, specifically in states like Texas and Minnesota, it is actually illegal for a contractor or repair shop to pay or waive an insurance deductible. If a shop tells you they can make the deductible disappear, they are likely doing one of 2 things. They are either inflating the estimate sent to the insurance company, which is insurance fraud, or they are cutting corners on the repair to save that $500 in cost. Case studies from the 2025 hail season in Colorado showed that shops waiving deductibles often skipped critical steps like internal corrosion protection or used lower quality glass, leading to long-term structural issues that the owner only discovered years later. To vet these shops like a professional investigator, you must start with the 3 questions. Question number 1. Can I see your local municipal business license and your certificate of insurance? A storm chaser who just arrived from 3 states away often lacks a local business license. More importantly, if they do not have garage keeper's liability insurance, your vehicle is not protected while it is in their possession. If a tree falls on their tent or a fire breaks out in their temporary workspace, you may have no recourse but to file a second claim on your own policy. Historical trends indicate that reputable national teams will always partner with a local, brick-and-mortar facility that has been in the community for years. If they are working out of a vacant parking lot with no local ties, the potential outcomes for your warranty are nearly 0. Question number 2. Do you use a light tunnel for final quality control? This is the technical separator between a professional and an amateur. As we discussed in Part 2, hail damage is best seen under specific LED light bars that reveal the distortion in the metal. A professional paintless dent repair shop will have a dedicated light tunnel where they inspect the car from every angle before returning it to you. If a shop tells you they just check it in the sun, they are not performing a precision repair. They are missing the micro highs and lows that will become visible the moment you drive the car into a different lighting environment, such as a gas station at night or a parking garage. Question number 3. Will you provide a line-itemized supplement report before performing any work not listed on the initial insurance estimate? This is where the financial conflict often happens. A predatory shop might perform thousands of dollars in extra work without getting insurance approval first, then hold your car hostage for the balance. You need a shop that understands the 2026 digital supplement process. They should be taking photos of the vehicle with the interior panels removed, showing the backside of the dents, and sending those directly to your adjuster through the carrier's portal. This ensures that every dollar spent is approved and documented. Now we must address the most significant technical risk, the Bondo trap. Paintless dent repair, or PDR, is the gold standard because it uses specialized tools to massage the metal back to its original shape without disturbing the factory paint. However, PDR is difficult and requires years of training. An unskilled or fraudulent technician might encounter a dent that is too sharp or located behind a structural brace. Instead of using the proper PDR technique or a legitimate push-to-paint method, they might simply fill the dent with body filler, commonly known as Bondo, sand it flat, and paint over it. In 2026, with the high prevalence of complex tri-coat and pearl paints, a mismatched paint job is a glaring red flag that destroys your car's resale value. More importantly, thick layers of filler can crack over time due to the natural expansion and contraction of the metal in the American sun. You must ask for a guarantee of PDR methodology in writing. This document should state that no body filler was used in the repair of the hail dents. There is one specific document you must ask for before they touch your car: the assignment of benefits, or AOB. In many U.S. states, a shop will ask you to sign an AOB, which legally transfers your insurance rights and benefits to the shop. While this is often done for convenience, it gives the shop total control over the claim. If the shop and the insurance company get into a legal dispute over the cost of labor, you are caught in the middle with no legal standing to intervene, and the shop may have the right to sue the insurance company in your name. Historical trends suggest that it is often safer to sign a direction to pay rather than a full assignment of benefits. A direction to pay allows the insurance company to send the check to the shop, but it does not sign away your underlying legal rights under the policy. Consider the case study of Sarah in St. Louis. She took her car to a pop-up tent because they offered a free rental car. 2 weeks later, she received her car back, and it looked fine in the parking lot. However, when she went to trade the car in 6 months later, the dealership used a paint depth gauge, a common tool in 2026, and discovered that the hood and roof had inconsistent thicknesses. This proved that the hail had been filled and repainted rather than repaired via PDR. The dealership docked $4,000 from her trade-in value because the vehicle now had a history of structural cosmetic repair. Sarah had no way to contact the original repair crew because they had moved on to the next storm in Georgia, and their phone number was disconnected. This is why your deep dive vetting process must include a search of the Better Business Bureau and local court records for the principals of the company. If the company was formed 60 days ago, you are taking a massive risk. You want a company that has survived at least one full calendar year of seasonal weather in your region. Furthermore, ask about their specialized equipment for ADAS calibration. In 2026, if a PDR technician has to remove your headliner or your side mirror assemblies to get their tools behind the metal, they are likely disconnecting sensors. If those sensors are not recalibrated using the manufacturer's specific software, your lane departure warning or blind spot monitoring may fail to activate when you need it most. A professional shop will have a line item in their estimate for pre-repair and post-repair diagnostic scans. We have now covered how to protect your car from the predators in the repair industry and how to ensure the technical integrity of the work. You know what to ask, what documents to avoid, and why the lowest price or the waive deductible is often the most expensive option in the long run. But even with a perfect shop and a perfect estimate, there is one major hurdle left that catches almost every American driver off guard: the total loss math. Your car might look beautiful, it might drive perfectly, and the shop might be ready to fix it, but the insurance company's computer might have already decided that your car is dead. In the next part, we are going to dive into the total loss formula and the salvage title trap. We will show you how to challenge an insurance company that wants to take your car away from you, and the one specific calculation you can use to keep your car and get paid. Do you know how to negotiate the buyback price? Because if you don't, you might lose your car over a few $100s of cosmetic metal work. We are going into the valuation wars next. The valuation wars begin the moment an insurance adjuster types your vehicle identification number into their proprietary software. In the United States, most insurance companies use a system called the total loss formula or a fixed percentage threshold. Imagine a driver in Denver named Robert. Robert owns a 2024 Toyota RAV4 that was caught in a severe spring storm in 2026. The car runs perfectly, the air conditioning is ice cold, and there isn't a single mechanical fault. However, every horizontal panel, the hood, the roof, and the trunk, is covered in hundreds of medium-sized dents. When the estimate comes back from the shop, the total cost for paintless dent repair and glass replacement is $18,000. Robert's insurance company looks at the current market value of his RAV4, which they peg at $24,000. In Colorado, as in many other states, if the repair cost reaches a certain percentage of the vehicle's value, often 75 to 80%, the car is legally mandated to be a total loss. Robert is stunned. He is told his car is a total loss even though it is completely drivable. This is the total loss trap of 2026. Because vehicle technology has become so integrated, the cost of labor to remove headliners, recalibrate sensors, and safely work around side curtain airbags has inflated repair costs faster than the actual value of the cars. Historical trends show that more vehicles are being totaled for cosmetic hail damage now than at any other point in American history. If you find yourself in Robert's shoes, you have two distinct paths, and the one you choose will have massive implications for your credit score and your future ability to insure the vehicle. The first path is accepting the settlement. The insurance company takes your car, they pay off your loan, and if there is anything left over, they send you a check. But here is the catch. How do they determine that $24,000 value? They use third-party vendors who generate a market valuation report. You must demand to see this report. Case studies from across the U.S. show that these reports frequently contain errors. They might list your vehicle as a base model when you actually have the premium trim. They might fail to account for recent upgrades like new tires or a high-end ceramic coating you installed just months ago. In 2026, the used car market is highly volatile, and an insurance company's data might be lagging by 60 to 90 days. If you find comparable vehicles selling at local dealerships for $27,000, you have the right to challenge their appraisal. Do not just send them a link to a random website. You need to provide 3 to 5 local advertisements for vehicles with similar mileage and features. This is the only way to move the needle on a total loss settlement. The second path is the owner retention option, commonly known as a buyback. If Robert loves his truck and doesn't care about the cosmetic dings, he can ask the insurance company for the potential outcomes of keeping the car. The math works like this. The insurance company takes the total value of the car, subtracts his deductible, and then subtracts the salvage value, what they could have sold the wrecked car for at an auction like Copart or IAA. Imagine the salvage value is $4,000. Instead of getting a $24,000 check and losing his car, Robert might get a $19,000 check and he gets to keep the RAV4. However, this is where the salvage title trap snaps shut. In almost every state in the USA, once a car is totaled by an insurance company, the title is branded. Depending on your state's specific laws, it may be a salvage title or a rebuilt title. In 2026, a branded title is a scarlet letter. It can reduce the future resale value of the car by 50% or more. Furthermore, many major insurance carriers will refuse to provide comprehensive or collision coverage on a vehicle with a salvage title. You might be restricted to liability-only coverage. If you get into a regular car accident 2 years later, you will receive nothing for the vehicle. You must check with your insurance agent specifically. If I retain this vehicle with a salvage certificate, will you continue to provide full coverage once the safety-related repairs, like the windshield, are completed? If the answer is no, you are essentially driving an unprotectable asset. There is also the 2026 reality of the loan gap in a total loss scenario. If Robert owes $28,000 on his RAV4, but the insurance company only values it at $24,000, he is $4,000 underwater. Even if the hail wasn't his fault, the bank still wants their money. This is why we emphasize gap insurance in Part 3. Without it, Robert would have to pay the bank $4,000 just to stop owning a car he no longer has. In a buyback scenario, the bank usually has to give permission for the owner to keep a totaled vehicle, because the bank's collateral has just been significantly devalued. If you have a lien on your car, the buyback option is often unavailable, unless you can pay off the loan in full immediately. Let's go deeper into the negotiation of the salvage value. Most people don't realize that the salvage value is negotiable. The insurance company gets a quote from an auction house based on an average. If your car has a rare interior color or a specific engine that is in high demand for parts, the salvage value might be higher. Conversely, if you can prove that the salvage market is currently flooded with hail-damaged cars, you can argue for a lower salvage deduction, putting more money in your pocket during a buyback. Consider the scenario of a 2026 enthusiast vehicle, like a high-end sports car or a specialized off-road rig. These vehicles often have thousands of dollars in aftermarket modifications. Standard insurance policies usually only cover up to $1,000 in modifications, unless you have a specific rider. If your $15,000 custom suspension is damaged or if the labor to remove and reinstall it during a roof repair pushes the car into a total loss, the insurance company might not count the value of those parts in their settlement, but they will certainly count the cost to fix the metal around them. You must document every receipt and every specialized component before the adjuster arrives. The strategy here is to stay ahead of the computer. If the initial estimate is at 60% of the vehicle's value, you are in the danger zone. As soon as the shop starts the teardown and finds more damage, which they almost always do, that 60% will jump to 80%, and the insurance company will pivot from a repair to a total loss. This is called a constructive total loss. To prevent this, some owners work with their shop to prioritize paintless dent repair over panel replacement, specifically to keep the repair costs below the total loss threshold. This is a delicate balance. You want the car fixed correctly, but you also want to avoid the salvage title if the damage is purely cosmetic. What happens if you disagree with the insurance company's final valuation and they refuse to budge? In the United States, most policies have an appraisal clause. This is a semi-legal process where you hire an independent appraiser. The insurance company hires theirs, and the two appraisers pick an umpire. The decision made by any two of the three is binding. While this costs money out of pocket, usually a few $100s, historical trends show that it can result in settlements thousands of dollars higher than the initial offer, especially for high-value or rare vehicles. By now, you understand the math that the insurance companies use to decide the fate of your car. You know how to read a valuation report, how to calculate a buyback, and how to spot the salvage title traps that can ruin your financial future. But even if you keep the car or get it repaired, there is a hidden loss that almost no insurance company will tell you about. It's called diminished value. Even a perfectly repaired car is worth less than one that has never been damaged. In the next part, we are going to explore the diminished value claim. We will show you the specific states where you can legally demand a check for the loss in resale value, and the one document you need from a specialized appraiser to prove exactly how much money the hailstorm actually took from your pocket, even after the dents are gone. Do you know the difference between inherent and insurance-related diminished value? You're about to find out how to get that final check. Inherent diminished value is the automatic loss in resale value that occurs simply because a vehicle now has a recorded accident or damage history. Even if the repair is flawless and performed by the best paintless dent repair technicians in the country, a potential buyer in 2026 will almost always choose the car with a clean history over the one that was caught in a major hailstorm. This is the reality of the digital age where every insurance claim is logged into databases like Carfax or AutoCheck. Imagine a driver in Georgia named Anthony. Anthony owns a 2024 luxury SUV that he plans to trade in for a newer model in 18 months. After a significant hail event, the insurance company pays $10,000 to repair the vehicle. When Anthony eventually goes to the dealership, the appraiser scans the VIN and sees the $10,000 hail claim. Even though the car looks perfect, the dealer offers Anthony $4,000, less than the current market value for a clean title, no damage equivalent. That $4,000 gap is Anthony's out-of-pocket loss, and in many cases, he can recover it. In the United States, the laws regarding diminished value claims are highly specific and vary by state. Georgia is historically unique because it is one of the few states where you can file a first-party diminished value claim against your own insurance company. In most other states, however, diminished value is typically a third-party claim, meaning you file it against the insurance of the person who hit you. But since hail is an act of God, many American drivers assume they are simply stuck with the loss. This is where the 2026 deep dive into policy language becomes essential. While first-party diminished value claims are restricted in many states by standard policy language, the potential outcomes change if you are in a state with consumer-friendly insurance statutes, or if you have a specialized policy endorsement. There are 3 types of diminished value you must understand to navigate this. The first is inherent diminished value, which we just discussed. It is the loss of value based on the stigma of damage. The second is repair-related diminished value. This happens when the repair itself is subpar. Perhaps the paint doesn't quite match or the gaps between the panels are uneven. This is often the fault of the repair shop, but if they were a preferred provider for the insurance company, the liability can get complicated. The third is insurance-related diminished value. This occurs when the insurance company refuses to pay for the correct parts or procedures, such as insisting on aftermarket glass that doesn't calibrate with your head-up display, leading to a permanent reduction in the vehicle's functionality and value. Historical trends show that insurance companies almost never offer diminished value settlements voluntarily. They wait for the consumer to bring it up and prove the loss. To do this, you cannot simply guess a number. You need a diminished value appraisal. In 2026, specialized appraisers use a combination of historical auction data, dealer surveys, and the 17C formula, a calculation originally derived from a famous Georgia court case, to put a precise dollar amount on your loss. This report typically costs between $200 and $500, but if it proves a $4,000 loss in value, the investment is logically sound. Consider the case study of a driver named Linda in Charlotte, North Carolina. Linda's electric sedan was pelted by hail, resulting in a $7,000 repair. North Carolina law generally favors insurance companies on first-party diminished value, but Linda discovered that her specific policy did not have an explicit exclusion for diminished value in the comprehensive section. By hiring an independent appraiser who provided a 15-page report documenting similar vehicles selling for 20% less after a hail record, Linda was able to negotiate a $2,500 settlement on top of her repair costs. This was not a gift. It was a recovery of lost asset value. You must be aware of the statute of limitations for these claims. In many U.S. states, you have up to 2 or 3 years from the date of the loss to file a diminished value claim. This means even if your car was fixed a year ago, you might still be able to collect that check today. However, you should never wait that long. The best time to file is immediately after the repairs are completed, and you have the final line itemized invoice from the shop. This invoice is the primary evidence for the appraiser to determine how invasive the repairs were. A car that required the roof to be cut off and replaced will have a significantly higher diminished value than one that was repaired entirely via paintless dent repair. We also need to discuss the impact of the 2026 used car market. As vehicle prices have stabilized after the volatility of the early 2020s, buyers have become much more discerning. A hail record on a vehicle history report is often used as a primary negotiation lever by dealerships to lowball trade-ins. If you plan on keeping your car until the wheels fall off, diminished value might not feel like a priority. But if you are someone who cycles through vehicles every few years, ignoring this claim is effectively handing the insurance company thousands of dollars that belong to you. Step by step, the process for a diminished value claim looks like this. First, complete the repairs and ensure the car is in pre-loss condition. Second, obtain a professional diminished value appraisal from a licensed third party. Third, send a formal demand letter to your insurance claims adjuster, along with the appraisal report. Be prepared for an initial denial. The insurance company's first response is often a template stating that they do not pay for indirect losses. This is the moment where many people give up. However, those who understand the 2026 regulatory environment know that this is just the beginning of the negotiation. If your state's Department of Insurance has issued bulletins on this topic, quoting those bulletins in your follow-up can often trigger a secondary review by a supervisor. Furthermore, we must address the 2026 trend of total loss avoidance. Some insurance companies will intentionally undervalue the repair or the diminished value to keep a car from being totaled, only to have the owner discover the true loss when they try to sell. You have to be your own advocate. If the combined cost of the repair and the proven diminished value exceeds the total loss threshold of your car, you may actually have a stronger case for a total loss settlement than a repair. By understanding diminished value, you are looking at the full financial picture of a hailstorm, not just the dents on the surface. You are treating your vehicle as the significant financial asset it is. But as we move closer to the end of this masterclass, there is a very practical, immediate concern that often prevents these claims from even getting started. It is the issue of the deductible and the repair timeline. In 2026, the wait times for high-end body shops in storm zones can be 6 months or longer. Do you know how to skip the line without paying a premium? And do you know the one trick to getting your deductible reimbursed, even if you were at fault for being outside? In the next part, we are going into the logistics of the repair. We will talk about how to manage a 6-month backlog, the reality of rental car extensions, and how to ensure that the final signature you give to the shop doesn't accidentally waive your right to sue the insurance company later. We are moving into the shop floor next. The shop floor in 2026 is a high-stakes environment where the physical restoration of your vehicle meets the cold reality of global supply chains and labor shortages. Imagine a driver named Kevin in Austin, Texas. His car was caught in a March hailstorm, and he has successfully navigated the insurance appraisal and the choice of a shop. But when he tries to book his repair, The shop manager tells him the first available slot is in October. This 7-month backlog is not an anomaly. It is a historical trend in major U.S. metropolitan areas following a catastrophic weather event. To manage this, you must understand the difference between a drivable and a non-drivable repair. If your car is mechanically sound and the glass is intact, you are in a holding pattern. However, the mistake Kevin might make is simply waiting for a phone call that may never come. To skip the line, or more accurately, to ensure you are not pushed to the back of it, you must utilize the pre-order strategy. In 2026, the bottleneck is rarely the physical act of pushing out a dent. It is the procurement of replacement parts like hood assemblies, sunroof glass, and specialized weather stripping. If you wait until your drop-off date in October to order parts, your car will sit in the shop lot for another 3 weeks. You must insist that the shop performs a complete teardown and parts identification immediately upon opening the claim. By paying for the parts up front, or ensuring the insurance company has issued a payment specifically for parts, the shop can have everything on the shelf before your car ever enters the bay. This transforms a 30-day repair into a 10-day repair. During this waiting period, your interaction with the insurance company regarding your rental car is a primary financial concern. Most U.S. policies have a 30-day limit on rental coverage. If your car is in the shop for 45 days due to parts delays, you are facing 15 days of out-of-pocket rental costs, which in 2026 can exceed $100 per day for a standard sedan. The case study of a driver named Sarah in Minneapolis provides a roadmap for this. When her repair was delayed due to a back-ordered windshield, she didn't just accept the bill. She requested a delay of repair letter from the shop, which documented that the delay was due to external supply chain factors beyond her control. She then presented this to her insurance adjuster. While they aren't legally required to extend the rental in every state, many carriers have internal policies that allow for a one-time extension of 10 to 15 days if the parts delay is verified. Without that letter from the shop, the potential outcome is a denied extension and a $2,000 rental bill. Once your car finally makes it onto the shop floor, you need to understand the technical nuances of the repair. We have discussed paintless dent repair as the preferred method, but there is a hybrid process known as push-to-paint. This occurs when a dent is so deep that the metal is stretched, but the paint hasn't cracked yet. The technician will use PDR tools to get the metal as flat as possible, but because the metal has lost its structural memory, it requires a thin layer of finishing glaze and a respray of the panel. If your shop is doing this, you must ensure they are using a computerized paint matching system. In 2026, many vehicles use multi-stage finishes that are incredibly difficult to replicate by eye. A shop that uses a spectrophotometer to scan your car's actual paint, which has likely faded slightly from the factory original, will produce a much better result than one that simply uses the factory paint code. Furthermore, let's talk about the Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, or ADAS. This is the single most overlooked part of a 2026 hail repair. If a technician removes your headliner to access the roof, they are often working around curtain airbags and the cameras mounted near the rearview mirror. Even a slight jarring of these components can throw off the calibration. Historical trends show that a significant percentage of vehicles returned after hail repair have disabled or improperly functioning safety systems. You must demand a pre-scan and a post-scan report. The pre-scan shows any existing codes in the car's computer before the work begins. The post-scan proves that every sensor, from the blind spot monitors in the quarter panels to the rain-sensing wipers, is functioning perfectly. If the shop doesn't have the equipment to do this in-house, they must sublet it to a dealership or a mobile calibration specialist. This is a non-negotiable step for your safety. There is also the matter of the final signature and the release of liability. When you go to pick up your car, the shop will present you with a pile of paperwork. One of those documents is likely a final release that states you are satisfied with the repairs and that the insurance company has fulfilled its obligation. Stop right there. You should never sign this until you have performed your own final inspection under the specific lighting conditions we discussed in Part 2. If you find a missed dent or a piece of trim that wasn't properly reattached, and you have already signed the release, getting the shop to fix it becomes an uphill battle. More importantly, check the wording of the release carefully. Some forms contain language that could waive your right to file a supplemental claim if hidden damage appears later, such as a water leak that only becomes apparent during the first heavy rain after the repair. Consider the scenario of a driver in Oklahoma named Marcus. Marcus picked up his truck on a sunny afternoon, signed the papers, and drove home. A week later, he noticed a whistling sound at highway speeds. It turned out that the sunroof seal had been improperly seated during the hail repair. Because Marcus had signed a restrictive release, the shop tried to argue that the seal issue was new damage. It took a month of fighting and an intervention from the state's Consumer Protection Agency to get it resolved. The lesson here is to write subject to further inspection for hidden defects next to your signature on the final paperwork. This simple phrase provides a legal cushion in the 2026 repair environment. We must also address the payment logistics. In the US, insurance checks for hail damage are often made out to both you and your lien holder, the bank you owe money to for the car. This is a major hurdle. You cannot simply cash this check and pay the shop. You have to send the check to the bank, they have to endorse it, and then they send it back to you. This can add 2 weeks to the process. To avoid this, some shops can work with your bank through a process called a dealer endorsement, or the insurance company can issue a digital payment directly to the shop if they are part of a preferred network. Understanding how the money moves is just as important as understanding how the metal moves. By now, you have managed the backlog, protected your safety sensors, and ensured your rental car was covered. Your car is back in your driveway, and it looks better than the day you bought it. But for the American driver in 2026, the story doesn't end when the car is fixed. There is a long-term ripple effect on your insurance profile and your future premiums that you need to be prepared for. There is a specific way to review your next insurance renewal to ensure you aren't being quietly penalized for a claim that wasn't your fault. In the next part, we are going to look at the post-claim recovery. We will discuss how to audit your CLUE report, how to handle a non-renewal notice, and the one thing you can do to your car right now to make the next hailstorm a non-event. Do you know about the latest advancements in impact-resistant ceramic coatings and clear bras? Because the best way to handle hail damage is to make sure it doesn't happen in the first place. We are looking at long-term protection next. The conversation around automotive hail damage in the United States usually focuses on the repair, but in 2026, the real masters of the car ownership game are focusing on mitigation and long-term asset protection. Once your car is back to its factory-fresh appearance, you are at a critical crossroads. You can either park it back in the driveway and hope the next supercell misses your zip code, or you can implement a defensive strategy based on the latest material science. The historical trends of the last few years show that hail events are not only becoming more frequent, but are occurring in regions of the USA that previously considered themselves safe. This shift has given rise to a new industry of impact-resistant technologies that can drastically change the potential outcomes of the next storm. Let us start with the most common question car owners in 2026 ask. Can a ceramic coating protect my car from hail? The short answer is no, but the nuance is where the value lies. A standard ceramic coating is a thin layer of liquid polymer that chemically bonds with the factory paint. It is excellent for UV protection and water repellency, but it has almost zero impact resistance against a solid object falling at terminal velocity. However, we are now seeing the emergence of high-build ceramic layers designed to work in tandem with paint protection film, or PPF. This is what the industry calls a clear bra. Imagine a driver in Oklahoma named Tyler. Tyler just spent $8,000 on paintless dent repair for his 2025 electric pickup truck. To prevent a repeat performance, he looks into heavy-duty PPF. In 2026, premium films have reached thicknesses of 10 to 12 mils. While this still won't stop a baseball-sized hailstone from denting the metal, it performs a vital function. It prevents the paint from cracking. As we discussed in Part 2, the difference between a simple PDR repair and an expensive conventional body shop repair is whether or not the paint is compromised. By installing a high-impact PPF, Tyler is ensuring that even if a stone dents the hood, the paint remains intact, allowing for a much cheaper and faster repair down the line. Case studies from the 2025 storm season in North Texas showed that vehicles equipped with full-body PPF were 60% less likely to require paintwork after a moderate hail event compared to unprotected vehicles. But the protection masterclass goes beyond just films. We have to talk about the physical environment. If you live in a region like Hail Alley, your 2026 lifestyle must include a proactive weather alert system. Most people rely on standard phone notifications, but these are often delayed by several minutes, the exact minutes you need to get your car under cover. Professional-grade weather apps now offer hyperlocal radar with millimetric precision. Imagine if Tyler had an app that gave him a 5-minute lead time before the first stone hit. In those 5 minutes, if he doesn't have a garage, he needs a tactical solution. This leads us to the rise of the hail car cover. In 2026, these are no longer just thin blankets. We are seeing inflatable car covers that create a pressurized cushion of air around the vehicle. These systems can be deployed in under 3 minutes using a portable compressor. Historical data from localized testing suggests that these air cushion covers can mitigate the impact of hailstones up to 2 inches in diameter. For an American driver who has to park on the street or in an open lot at work, this $500 investment can be the difference between a $5,000 claim and zero damage. There are also foam core covers that use high-density polyethylene layers to absorb kinetic energy. While bulkier to store, they provide a passive layer of defense that doesn't rely on a power source. Now let's look at the long-term insurance implications of your recent claim. In 2026, your insurance company is watching your behavior through the lens of a CLUE report, the Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange. Even though hail is a no-fault claim, if you have 2 hail claims within a 3-year period, you might receive a non-renewal notice. This is not because you are a bad driver, but because the insurance company's algorithm has flagged your garaging location as a high-risk liability. To counter this, you must audit your own CLUE report. You can request a free copy once a year. Look for errors. If the report lists a hail claim as an at-fault accident, your premiums across every carrier in the U.S. will be unnecessarily high. Correcting these errors is a foundational step in your post-claim recovery. Furthermore, we need to discuss the 2026 trend of telematics and weather. Many U.S. insurance companies now offer discounts for drivers who use telematics devices or apps that track driving habits. In some advanced policies, carriers are beginning to look at garaging data. If you can prove that you have moved your vehicle to a covered parking structure or installed a permanent carport, you may be eligible for a re-rating of your comprehensive premium. It is about demonstrating to the underwriter that you have mitigated the risk. Consider the scenario of a driver in South Carolina named Elena. Elena's car was repaired, but her insurance premium jumped by 20% at her next renewal. Instead of just paying it, Elena shopped her policy using the evidence of her new impact-resistant film and her documented use of a covered garage. By presenting this as a risk mitigation package, she found a carrier that specialized in high-value vehicle protection and actually lowered her rate below her pre-storm levels. This is the power of being an informed consumer in the 2026 insurance market. There is also the matter of glass protection. In 2026, windshields are no longer just glass. They are integrated safety components housing cameras and LiDAR sensors. Replacing a windshield on a modern vehicle is an ordeal that involves hours of recalibration. To protect this, we are seeing the adoption of exterior glass protection films. These are similar to PPF, but specifically engineered for optical clarity and high-velocity impact resistance. While they can be expensive, they prevent the chips and star breaks that lead to total glass failure during a storm. If you can keep the glass intact, you keep the safety sensors calibrated, and you keep the car drivable immediately after the storm. We have now moved from the immediate chaos of the storm, through the financial warfare of the claim, into the technical precision of the repair, and finally into the strategic fortress of long-term protection. You have the tools to ensure that your car remains a high-value asset, regardless of what the sky throws at it. But there is one final, overarching challenge that every American car owner faces when they finally decide to move on from their vehicle. Whether you keep the car for 10 years or sell it next month, the way you disclose this history and the way you prove the quality of the repair will determine exactly how much of your original investment you get back. In the final part of this masterclass, we are going to wrap everything together. We are going to look at the final resale strategy. We will show you how to build a vehicle provenance folder that makes a buyer feel safe, the one secret to getting a dealership to ignore a hail record on a trade-in, and the ultimate checklist to ensure you never get caught off guard by a storm again. We are finishing the masterclass with the exit strategy that puts the final check in your hand. The last piece of the puzzle is coming up next. The final piece of the masterclass focuses on the moment you decide to part ways with your vehicle. In the United States, the resale market in 2026 is driven by data transparency. Every time a vehicle identification number is scanned, a digital footprint appears. If you have followed the steps in this series, that footprint includes a significant hail repair. Most owners fear this moment, but the professional exit strategy turns a potential liability into a proof of maintenance. Imagine a seller in Phoenix named Marcus. He is ready to trade in his SUV, which underwent a $12,000 hail repair 2 years ago. The dealership appraiser pulls the report and immediately points to the damage history to justify a lower offer. Marcus, however, does not panic. He reaches into his glove box and pulls out the vehicle provenance folder. This folder is the cornerstone of value retention. It should contain a chronological record of the event. First, include the meteorological report from the day of the storm to prove the damage was weather-related and not a collision. Second, include the high-resolution before photos that show the damage was purely cosmetic. Third, and most importantly, include the final line itemized invoice from a certified Paintless dent repair facility. This document should explicitly state that no body filler was used and that the factory paint remains intact. Historical trends in the 2026 used car market show that buyers are far more comfortable with a high-dollar cosmetic repair than a low-dollar structural one. By showing that you chose a specialized, high-quality PDR shop over a cheap, high-volume body shop, you shift the narrative from damage to restoration. Case studies of private vehicle sales in 2026 suggest that transparency actually increases the speed of a sale. When you list your car on a platform like Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids, being upfront about the hail repair and providing a link to a digital folder of the repair process builds immediate trust. Potential buyers in the US are often wary of hidden issues. If you show them exactly what happened and how it was fixed by a professional who provided a lifetime warranty on the work, you remove the uncertainty. This warranty is a vital asset. Most reputable PDR shops provide a warranty that is transferable to the next owner. Ensure you have the physical certificate of this warranty in your folder. A buyer is much more likely to pay a premium price for a car with a documented, warranted history than for a car with a clean report that has suspicious, non-reported ripples in the hood. Furthermore, we must address the dealer trade-in math. Dealerships often use software like Viato or Black Book to determine wholesale values. These systems automatically deduct for any accident or damage history. However, these deductions are based on averages. If the software suggests a $3,000 deduction for a hail record, but you can prove that the vehicle underwent a full ADAS recalibration and a post-repair diagnostic scan, you are demonstrating that the vehicle is in a higher tier of condition than the average repaired car. You should ask the appraiser to look at the roof and hood under their own service bay lights. When they see the lack of orange peel or paint mismatch that typically accompanies traditional bodywork, they have less room to argue for a massive devaluation. Let us transition into the ultimate storm preparedness checklist. This is the synthesis of everything we have learned. To ensure you never find yourself in a financial hole after a storm, you must audit your vehicle status every 6 months. Step 1 is a policy review. In 2026, insurance companies update their terms frequently. Confirm that your comprehensive coverage is active and that your deductible is at a level you can comfortably pay tomorrow. If you have moved to a state with a percentage-based catastrophe deductible, consider switching to a carrier that offers a flat-rate weather deductible to cap your out-of-pocket exposure. Step 2 is the tool check. Every U.S. driver in a hail-prone region should have a dedicated emergency kit in their trunk. This is not just for road flares. It is for vehicle preservation. This kit should include a roll of automotive crash wrap, a high-quality microfiber towel, and a portable LED inspection light. If you are caught at work or in a parking garage during a storm, the crash wrap allows you to seal a broken sunroof or side window immediately, preventing the secondary water damage that often leads to a total loss declaration. Historical data indicates that the first 10 minutes of protection after a window shatters are the most critical for saving the vehicle's interior electronics. Step 3 is the digital backup. Ensure your pre-storm photos are uploaded to a cloud service with a timestamp. In a dispute with an insurance adjuster over pre-existing damage, a set of photos from 3 months ago showing a flawless hood is your strongest evidence. In 2026, adjusters are trained to look for old rock chips or door dings to justify a deduction from your settlement. A clean dated photo log prevents this. Step 4 is the shop relationship. Do not wait for a storm to find a reputable PDR technician. Visit a local shop during a quiet period. Ask them about their experience with your specific vehicle brand. Some modern aluminum alloys used by manufacturers like Ford and Tesla require specialized heat induction tools to repair properly. A shop that is already familiar with your car's metallurgy is a shop that will get your repair approved faster when the catastrophe adjusters are swamped. Reflecting on this 10-part masterclass, the potential outcomes of your recovery are determined by your level of preparation and your willingness to act as your own advocate. We have covered the physics of the storm, the forensic documentation of the damage, the hidden traps in your insurance policy, and the psychological warfare of the claims process. We have looked at the technical differences between PDR and traditional bodywork, the financial risks of a total loss, and the specialized legal avenues like diminished value claims. You now possess a level of knowledge that puts you in the top 1% of informed consumers in the American automotive landscape. The United States sees billions of dollars in hail-related vehicle damage every year. Most of that money stays in the pockets of insurance companies because owners do not know how to document their loss or challenge a lowball estimate. By applying these forensic and financial strategies, you are not just fixing a car, you are protecting one of your most significant investments. The 2026 economy does not reward the passive consumer. It rewards the one who understands that every dent is a data point and every policy clause is a negotiation. As we conclude this series, remember that the environment is constantly evolving. New materials, new insurance regulations, and new repair technologies are emerging every month. This masterclass is your foundation, but staying informed is your ongoing responsibility. You have the blueprint, you have the case studies, you have the step-by-step details to navigate the storm and come out the other side with your vehicle's value and your financial health intact. But even as we finish the story of the car, a new shadow is forming. While hail can ruin your vehicle's exterior, there is another environmental factor in 2026 that is quietly totaling thousands of cars across the coastal and southern United States. And unlike hail, this one leaves no visible dents until it is far too late to fix. In our next masterclass series, we are going to dive into the invisible killer of modern electronics, the flood recovery blueprint. We will show you why a car that was submerged for only 10 minutes might be more dangerous than one hit by 1,000 hailstones, and how to spot a flood-damaged vehicle on a used car lot before you sign the paperwork. The sky is only half the battle, the ground is next. Stay vigilant.